Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for joining us today here at I Need a Speaker.
Thank you for having me. I am Stefanie Daniels, and I am the CEO of Life Begins at Menopause.
Perfect. All right, so just to jump right in, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of history in your profession and ultimately how you got to beginning your own business.
Yeah, so everyone has a story, right? And mine begins in 2015, 2017. So my mum passed away from ovarian cancer. And after she passed away from that 9-year battle with cancer, I got tested for a genetic mutation called the BRCA gene, BRCA. It was actually Angelina Jolie who brought it to the forefront of my mind way back then, because she also had the BRCA gene. And when the results came back positive, I could either do nothing and just hope that I never get cancer like my mum did, or I could take preventative steps to ensure that never happened. And so that's what I decided to do. And as a result of that, I had a double mastectomy. And I had what's called an oophorectomy, where they take out your ovaries. And when they take out your ovaries, you go straight into a surgical menopause.
Oh, wow.
And so there's no easing into it. There's no perimenopause. You're just, boom, you're fully menopausal. And when I came up for air and started to look around, I was 37 at the time. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. I cannot be this old before my time. And I started to take steps to optimize my journey. And I realized that actually all I needed to do was tweak a few things and I could optimize my hormones. And when I did that, I realized that other people hadn't quite cottoned onto the fact that you can actually tweak it. It's within your realm to optimize it. They were just struggling. And I knew then that I needed to do something. So I gave up my very long, very wonderful career in media. I was a salesperson in media for 22 years, working on some brilliant brands, radio, magazine, and online as well. I loved it, but I knew this was my calling. And so I went back and studied nutrition here in London. I studied coaching, and I worked with bioresonance, which is a scanning machine that tests your body for energetic imbalances. And I put all those modalities together, the nutrition, the coaching, so the emotional support and the scanning. And I support women everywhere to optimize their health and well-being. And I get some brilliant results.
That's incredible. I am so inspired by taking your, that jump, that leap of faith, and trusting that that was what your calling was. Because I feel like so many people, unfortunately, are faced with similar situations and don't know what to do in that circumstance, or don't have the resources to get help. So taking that jump and trusting in yourself that that was what you were passionate about and you knew you needed that change in your life is extremely inspiring to me, as I'm sure many others. Do you mind going into your education a little bit about what you found through your studies that were extremely helpful in creating and upstarting this business?
Yes, definitely. So I studied nutrition at the College of Naturopathic Medicine. So we're taught about food being medicine, and really joining the dots between what you eat and also what you consume in terms of media, what you tell yourself, and will really manifest in various symptoms. So my clients thought that they were doing no harm by having a glass of wine with their dinner, because they were like, well, it pairs with food, right? But actually what that glass of wine was doing when your hormones are disrupted is that they will disrupt them even further. And so although it seems like a sedative at this age, very different at different stages, different ages, but at this age, I would have wine when I was younger and it would metabolize totally different than it does now. So I'm talking about my age, like north of 40. You would have this glass of wine, this very innocent seeming glass of wine, and it would act like a sedative. So it would take off the edges of your day, as they would say it. But what it was doing was it was giving you loads of sugar, So it was giving you that spike, this sugar rush. And also it was a depressant. So it was really disrupting the neurotransmitters, the neuro being the brain and transmitters being chemical messengers. So it would really disrupt your hormones, your neurotransmitters. And that would lead to anxiety, and that would lead to palpitations, and that would disrupt your sleep. And so the next day you would make the wrong choices. And so the cycle perpetuates. So at college, we're just taught to approach people from a whole person approach. Then what led to the coaching was I realized that I was giving protocols to people, and I was saying to them, you need to increase your protein, you need to decrease your alcohol, you need to decrease your sugar or include more fiber. But there's a very strong emotional attachment that some people have with food and with a drink. And it's not as easy as saying, decrease that, increase that. They are having and consuming these things because they are emotionally reliant on them. And so I went and studied at the International Coaching Federation's gold standard, barefoot coaching. And I trained as a coach so that when we're dealing with these emotions, I know how to handle and support my client to facilitate growth. And there was something still missing for me. We were kind of fumbling around in the dark with the nutrition. Well, try and increase your protein, that might help. And let's talk about these emotions, that might help. But the bioresonance is a machine that I stumbled upon, and it was one of my lecturers who did a scan on me, and I was blown away by the results, which weren't that mind-blowing in themselves, but they really, really enabled us to go right to the root of the problem rather than endlessly chasing symptoms. And I remember she turned around to my husband and I, and she said, you have to get this machine. It's totally revolutionized my clinic. And although it was a massive investment, I knew that was what I needed to do because I have to move the needle for my clients. I have to get results. And so those three modalities together get incredible results for my clients, that they're so much so that they're leaving my virtual office, my office in my home in North London, just new, inspired, empowered women and ready to take on and change themselves.
I am so inspired by that story. As the more that you talk, every single thing that you're saying is not only incredibly interesting, but inspiring. That machine itself, I've heard stories about that in the past, but not enough of my understanding has developed from some of the things and the information that I've been told. If you don't mind, what are some of the examples that you've seen come out of that don't show up by just going to the doctor or being treated for this or that circumstance that always can't be seen? So I guess in simpler terms, what are the benefits of this machine that can't be given in other realms of medicine?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. So listen, let's just kind of put a disclaimer here. This is not science-backed stuff, right? This is energetic imbalances, but I try and keep it very, very grounded. And there's an intuition that I use when I use a machine. So I can give you an example of one of my clients. We won't disclose any confidential names or anything, but I can give you an essence of what came up. So one of my clients came to me with patches in his hair. It's actually in his hair. And what came up for him was what's called the migrating motor complex, the MMC. So I'll break that down for you. Migrating means movement. Motor means enhances the kind of function of the motor, and the complex, so the setup. So the migrating, so the movement, the motor complex, MMC. And that is to do with your gut, how things move along in your gut. And for him, he wasn't going, I'm gonna talk about stools here, right? I know there's adolescence humor around stools, but we're just going to say how it is, okay? Because this is my job. He wasn't passing motion every day. And so when that came up, I asked him about that, and I said, how often are you going? And he said, once every 4 days. And he thought that was normal, just fine. We should be going every day. And so I gave him some sun gold kiwis, because you can eat the skin of the sun gold kiwis. I don't know if you have those in the States, but we've got them here. And that was just nature's way of helping his migrating motor complex. So he did that. The second thing that came up for him was the word relax. And I said to him, how do you relax? And he just burst out laughing. And I said, well, how do you relax? And he's what we call it a city boy. So he works in the city and he's got a very, very high powered job. So they work all hours and they think that that's normal. And then they come home, go to sleep and repeat. So I said to him about relaxing and he laughed and he said, I don't relax. And the problem was his body was trying to hang on to resources, and the way that it was doing that was to pull in resources from somewhere else. And in his case, it was leading to his alopecia. So he was effectively running on empty and expecting his body to, he's kind of going full steam ahead and expecting his body to function as if it were fully equipped with full petrol, we call it petrol, sorry. And so he worked on his relaxing strand, his lifestyle a little bit. So he sorted out his gut, sorted out relaxing. And then his adrenals were on the floor. And so that comes from the word adrenaline. And so he was basically running on empty. And so we put a protocol in place. Now, if he would have gone to the doctor, and I have to say I have so much respect for doctors. They kept my mum alive for 9 years, that she might not have been here for. But they fight fire. They're just firefighting the whole time. And we're lucky enough to have the NHS here, the National Health Service here. But if he would have gone to a doctor, they would have given him a suppressant based on his symptoms. So I go in the back door and I help him get to the root cause so that he can stop endlessly chasing symptoms. And slowly but surely his gut started working more efficiently and his hair started growing back.
I hear more and more in the health realm about it being internal and within your gut. I feel like your gut health is coming up more and more and more. I think, however, the difficulty with that is finding why your gut health is struggling, because as you know, it's connected to everything, whether it shows on your skin that your gut health isn't good or the way that your body is functioning in other ways. I think that is becoming more and more of a prevalent conversation. And I think that's a very, very good thing. We're moving towards things that you can't always just see on the outside or with huge physical symptoms. But that is an incredible story that you were able to pinpoint things like just that you couldn't have seen without that machine. That's absolutely incredible. On that topic a little bit, I was wondering about any other success stories that you have with clients and how you have seen them change their lives moving forward. So after you deal with them, when they come into you, when you see them leaving, what do you see changing in them mentally, physically? There's obviously benefits that you have in your services, but if there's any changes that you physically see in them moving forward in their lives, things that they weren't able to do prior to your help, and also how that's rewarding to you, how you find that fulfillment as a second question.
So I had a client who came to me recently. She was just about to take Ozempic, the injection to help you lose weight. And that definitely has its place. It's brilliant for diabetics and great at driving insulin into the cell. I'll keep the science lesson at that level. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't teach you how to eat. And so once you come off of the injection, you're back going towards square one. So she was about to take Ozempic and she came to me, and she wasn't a necessarily large lady. She was quite in proportion for her weight, but she felt really, really deflated. And so we looked at her diet. I looked at what she was eating. I looked at her emotional status as well. And she was having carbs quite a lot. Very innocent, what's called simple carbs. So simple carbs break down quite simply in your digestion. The complex carbs are more complicated, and so take your body more work to break it down. So that's the difference between a sweet potato as a complex carb and a simple carb, which would be white pasta. So one by one, it wasn't a linear process. We had to tweak and go on a little journey and work out what works and what doesn't. She would increase her protein. I'm going to keep this very, very top line, but there was obviously much more to it. Increased her protein, decreased her simple carbs, and eventually, and she got very, very impatient. She was like, why aren't I seeing results? Why aren't I seeing results? And I just said to her, just keep going. just stick with it. And eventually I got this wonderful text, as I always do, saying, Stefanie, it's happened. I've lost 2 kg and in so many weeks. Thank you so much. I get it now. I know what works for my body. And she's just working on her own now, which is brilliant.
Well, that's a beautiful story as well. If you wanted to touch a little bit, I'll give you a second if you wanted to talk about how that was fulfilling to you yourselves in a wider range of clients as well, just the fulfillment that you find in supporting these clients and fulfilling that emotion that you felt initially when you wanted to begin this business.
Yeah, it's like a knowing. It's like a sixth sense. So I tried most things on the market. I probably spent more money than I should have, just testing all these things out. And when I knew that something worked, so I knew that the gut was the good place to start. I knew that the foundation of my training in nutrition was just that. It was the foundation. It laid the way and paved the way for the next thing, which was the coaching. And having the tools to coach someone is magical. But there was still something missing for me. And when I stumbled upon the bioresonance machine, whoosh, that was it. I just knew. I didn't actually care how much it was. I knew that this is what I needed to do because I knew this would get results. And so it's like a knowing. And when I get the text that I did from that client, both of those clients and more, I know it's coming because I know that it works. And so, yes, there's a bit of arrogance with, well, I know this works. And then under it, I was in media sales before, so I was selling space. And it was really, really soulless by the end. I didn't get any fulfillment from it. But this sparked something inside of me. And I know this is where I'm meant to be, and I know I'm meant to help women, and I love it.
We're so happy that you found something so passionate about that you feel it almost ignite your soul, that you are so passionate about something that you feel it physically. It makes you so happy. So kudos to you for finding that. And also while doing so, not only are you helping yourself find that enjoyment, but you're helping so many other women find their happiness and once again within their own bodies. So that's absolutely a beautiful story. Pivoting a little bit, if you don't mind, to more of the business side of Beginning Life Begins at Menopause. How did you navigate such a new field and possibly use your past profession in this benefit? But what were some of maybe the difficulties that you found with upstarting this business? And also, what did you find was helpful from your past in navigating this new profession?
So what was difficult was, have you seen Mary Poppins?
Yeah.
Have you seen that scene where she opens the door and it's the original Mary Poppins, not the old one? I don't think the newer one has seen in it. And and he opens the door, the dad, and he goes to interview all the nannies, but there's no one there. There was just the little dog.
Yes.
Because Mary Poppins had blown all the other nannies away. So I remember when I got the bioresonance machine, I opened the door like the dad, I've forgotten his name, and there was no one there. I was like, where is everyone? Why are they knocking on my door?
Why are people aware of this? Why don't people love me?
Where's Mary Poppins when you need her? Yeah. And there was no Mary Poppins, and I had to really learn a valuable lesson about word of mouth and starting from scratch and building my new business and using all my entrepreneurial skills. So that was the bad thing. That was the lesson. Keep going. I kept hearing just words like keep going, believe in yourself, just keep going. And so I had to really muster all my self-worth, my kind of self-motivation to keep going. And the good thing on the flip side to that was that I believe in myself. I know that it shifts the needle for women. So that was really easy. But in terms of my past, we're talking about media. I would run campaigns for people, advertising their product. And what felt inauthentic was that I would build wonderful relationships with my clients, but to get them to buy something that didn't resonate with me. I can't resonate with space in airtime in a radio slot or a magazine. And now I'm selling but I'm selling because I know it's going to help them. And yes, it's going to keep me a business. Everyone needs to eat, right? But the food that I'm eating is much better now.
Yes. So it sounds like a win-win to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for all parties involved, but on both sides for you as well. I think
Yeah.
that valuable lesson that you learned of keep going, when you believe in yourself, you have to believe in yourself, or else why should anyone else? And I think that hearing that from such successful individuals such as yourself, for anyone listening, is extremely valuable information. And also to just trust the process. It's not always going to be easy in the jumpstart of things, but to know that there's value behind the business that you're trying to create. There's value within that, yourself as well. So I think that's absolutely incredible that you found so much success in it. And once again, bringing it back to how fulfilling it is for yourself is a win-win, as I said before. So that's incredible. Wrapping it up just a little bit, in any of your speaking engagements, whether this is publicly or individually, client to client, person to person, what are some of the base things of knowledge that you hope to implement on anyone? If they take away anything from what you share, what are some of those key bullet pointed lists that you hope that people recognize and hear from you based on your knowledge and expertise?
So definitely root cause, getting to the root cause and empowering people to get to the root cause rather than endlessly chasing symptoms. And my talks are about empowering the people that go there. So employers these days take a lot of responsibility for helping their employees. Friends, content out there, counselors, therapists, coaches, whatever that modality is, they take a lot of responsibility to create content. And I do it as well. I'm an endless bucket of content. But ultimately, it's about tuning out the noise from the outside and tuning in to what is going on inside you. So to know that actually, do you know what? Not sleeping at 40 is not a way of life. What is the reason behind that? And what can I do to optimize that? So really, really empowering people to take back control of their health, become inspired enough to start looking into the way that they talk to themselves, treat themselves, feed themselves, and what that is implicating, or what that means in terms of the symptoms and how they're showing up for themselves, for their family, for their work. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course. I was taking it all in. That can be applied to anyone. That is such applicable advice at any age. When I say that too, you could be 5 years old and you could be 85. Your body is the one that you have for your entire life. So learning to value it and prioritize it before anything else, in the long term, it's going to help you. It's only going to help you. So I think that's absolutely incredible. And you're proving that every single day with what you're doing. So I want to thank you for what you're doing for everyone that you come into contact with, the change that you're making on their life. And also congratulate you on the change that you made on your own life. And once again, I wanted to thank you for joining us today at I Need a Speaker. It's such a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you so much for enlightening us and our audience on the things that you've been up to.
Thank you, Norah. It's been great.